But there are a lot of things that need to be done to shore up, whether it's wide receiver. We've talked about offensive line. You need to get a second running back, or do you believe that Izzy Abanikanda? I mean, I'd love to see.
We'd love to find out.
I'd love to find out in these last 3 weeks. But when you look at the holes, Connor, where do you see? Where do you see the off-season going? What's the order of priority to get this team, the infrastructure around Aaron Rodgers, to be capable of winning a Super Bowl?
I think at a minimum, you are signing and drafting a tackle. Now, free agency with tackles, a lot of them just don't get there because of the demand in the league and the scarcity.
Pete. Okay.
Right. So can you go and sign a guy like that? And then the Jets are going to be picking in the top 10, maybe top 5 of this draft. Now, the conundrum here for me is there are 2 elite wide receivers at the top of this draft in Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. But the Jets need a tackle. And there are elite tackles. Olu Fashanu from Penn State, Joe Alt from Notre Dame, and there's a lot more after that. So I think the Jets, what they do in free agency will kind of have that trickle effect of the draft. And I know in the back of everyone's mind, can you trade for Davante Adams? It's a weird conversation. You don't have a second-round pick. Are you going to use future assets? Does he want to leave? They've had a little bit of a resurgence under Antonio Pierce. Those are conversations for another day. But if you just put it black and white on paper, the Jets need a legitimate number 2 pass-catching option. They need 2 offensive tackles. They probably still need a piece on the interior of the offensive line. And they need a legitimate veteran backup quarterback. And that's going to run you about $7 to $8 million a year in this market. So that's a long list when you don't have a second-round pick, and you can make cap space. The Jets could find themselves with $60 million cap space with restructures and all of that. That's not a fear. It's a matter of who makes it to free agency, because you talk yourself into that each year, and then you get to the market, and it looks like there's 10% of the guys we thought would be here.
Bryce probably cost you Bryce Huff, because that's a luxury piece. You have to have McDonald step up. You had let him and Lawson go, so it's going to be the McDonald and Jermaine Johnson show, hoping that he can grow and take the next step.
That's it. You think they would have to let Bryce Huff go? You don't see that as a guy that you have to sign?
Can't spend 15. First of all, they got to get some fat boys in the middle. Woods is down. They need an anchor in the middle of that defense. You see teams pushing them around on the inside and double teaming Quinnen. And Jefferson's having a great year. Maybe you re-sign him as a depth piece, but you got to have a big fat boy that can get down there and get dirty when you think about that. A Dalvin Tomlinson type of guy. So you talk about that. That's going to cost you a guy like Bryce. A guy like Bryce. But then on the back end, Whitehead's free as well. You don't have a Chuck Clark. Maybe you can sign Chuck Clark. Coming off of injury, he'll take a 1-year prove-it deal, somebody like that, because Whitehead's going to go get paid somewhere else, right? He was on a 3-year deal coming from Tampa. He's looking for his major big payday. He's looking for the Jesse Bates type of money, and I just don't know if that's out there right there. So the Jets are probably going to have to, if you're going to be all in for Aaron Rodgers, the reality of it is you're going to have to get rid of some future draft picks. And you're going to have to say F them picks like they say out there in Los Angeles with the Rams, and you're going to have to maybe, to be able to get 2 linemen maybe this year in the draft, and you may try and move back to 5th if somebody want to get that quarterback, drop back. That gives you a second for next year.
Back.
So then it gets you your second rounder back, and then you can either try and pony that up and move up into back into the first round like they've done
with
often.
Jermaine Johnson,
and then try and get you 2 first-round draft picks at the offensive side and go address. Davante Adams address your wide receiver. You see,
there's a lot.
There's had a brain aneurysm already.
Right. Well, I mean,
you got to redo CJ too. You have to alleviate pressure there. So you have to do a sign or extension there.
Well, we're going to take another break, but really quickly before we do, just to touch on each one of your points. So to your point about do the Jets go out and trade Davante Adams, give up future assets? For me, and I think Bart just alluded to this as well, you have to be all in for Aaron Rodgers at this point. And not only do you have to be all in, but you have to think about the people that are making the decisions. And assuming that Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are back next year, you can't be thinking in their spot about the future. Maybe for Jets fans, you want the future asset, but the future, they have 1 year, right? I mean, that's it.
1 year.
So I don't think that would be an impediment for them personally. And then, to your point about Bryce Huff, and I think they put themselves in a tough spot by not locking him up sooner. I mean, we've Jets fans and analysts have been banging the drum for a while, but it's very tough for me to take as someone who's watched this franchise for decades and has been waiting and dying for them to have a pass rusher on the outside.
Well, they have one with Jermaine Johnson.
They do, but man, that is a tough guy to give up. But that's the spot there. Again,
John Abraham vibes.
Right. That is John Abraham vibes.